Hi, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and I want to show you my latest project, and I want to show you why I'm not happy with this latest project. So behind me you can see this is my latest project. It's a stylized maple leaf, and I've got it all quilted and all done. Now, at first glance it doesn't look bad, but I'm going to be super critical of this quilt. So bear with me while I explain why I'm being super critical. Okay, first of all, this is a pattern by a designer called, I think it's Tamara Kate or Tamara Kate. She developed this design back for the 150th anniversary of Canada. And the original design of this, at least the picture of it, looks really quite nice. But I'm a little disappointed in the instructions, for one thing. So let's start with the instructions. This is a paper pieced project. So whereby most people are familiar with paper piecing, you basically have a pattern all drawn out on sections of paper, and you sew to that paper your fabric and tear it off afterwards, and then it all fits together like a jigsaw puzzle. Now, I do have limited experience with paper piecing. However, I have done it before. I read the instructions very carefully for this particular pattern, and I could not make heads nor tails of them. This was not the way I have been doing paper piecing in the past. Tamara Kate, I can't even describe what the instructions were, but well, let me just grab them and read them to you for a second here. Okay, so here are the instructions. I bought these online, downloaded them and printed them out. Those are the colors that she used. I believe they came from a set of fabrics that had all the coordinating solids involved, and I didn't buy the set. I tried to basically copy it as best I could with what I had, and these are a whole bunch of fat quarters in solids that I put together. So the first thing that I'm not happy about is my color combination. That is not on the designer of the pattern, that is on me. Those were my choices. And looking at it now, I think I should have been a little bit more careful in the choices that I made. For example, if you notice this branch of the maple leaf, I had run out of solids, so I used a sort of marbleized, I think it's a Northcott solstice fabric in here, and it just kind of stands out. Now, before I quilted this, that really stood out more so than it does now. The quilting kind of blends it in a little bit better, but it's still there. So I wasn't happy with that. But as I said, this was not the fault of the designer, it was my fault. And so here, I'll just let you have another closer look at the colors the designer used. Okay, so I said the instructions were poorly written, and I'll give you an example. This is what the overall pattern looks like. You print out the individual pieces. I don't think that's showing up very well, but you can see all the lines are all marked. It is fairly complex, although once you get going it's okay. Now, to decide on my colors, I did copy that diagram and I colored it in with pencil crayons to give me an idea of what it might look like. So let me just see if I can find, okay, here's the instructions. Now there are some illustrations, but they really don't help you at all. I found they're not very clear. It says the first fabric piece in each section, in this case AA1, is temporarily affixed, centered, to its corresponding pattern piece with a light dab of glue about 1 inch square to the back of the pattern piece to keep it in place, making sure there's an even amount of extra fabric all the way around. Okay, what I gathered from that was I was to take my first piece of fabric in the first placement, AA1, and put it on the back of the pattern itself with some glue. Okay, had a problem with that. I used Elmer's washable glue stick and it just didn't stick, and in fact, even though it's a water soluble glue, it did make a mark on my fabric, but it was the back side of the fabric, so I wasn't that concerned. Okay, pretty much I could figure that part out. Step 2, The first seam to be made is between AA1 and AA2. Place the metal ruler along the line dividing the two pattern pieces. Fold the paper up crisply along this line. Again, no problem with that because that's basically how I have done other pattern pieces. You fold along the line, crease it, and then step 3, remove the metal ruler, keeping the pattern folded, and place the acrylic ruler over the top, exactly a 1/4 inch beyond the folded pattern edge. Cut the fabric along this line. Again, did not have a problem with this, and I have a special ruler for doing just this kind of task, which is called add a 1/4 ruler. So it already has a little lip on it that butts up against your fold in the fabric, and it's exactly a 1/4 inch from that, and you just cut along it. Okay, I'm okay with that. Open the pattern so it lies flat again. Place the second fabric piece, AA2, under its corresponding pattern piece. Now, just as an aside here, and a bit picky, but the word again is spelled AGIN. Typo, I guess. But that suggests to me, with the other problems I had with this pattern, that nobody did a thorough read-through of this, an editing job on patterns. And I know patterns are difficult to write. Because you, in my way of thinking, you have to write them as if somebody does not know as much as you know about sewing to make it clear. This person did not write it this way. There were some assumptions made, and I'm not sure what those assumptions were. Number 4, step 4, hold the pattern in place on top of fabric AA2, and again fold the pattern along the crease line, flipping fabric AA1 up to the top. This is where I got lost. I tried to do this step by step, word by word. I still wasn't getting it. I got very frustrated, and so then I went on reading the pattern. With your acrylic ruler and rotary cutter, cut a straight line off fabric AA2 to align with the recently cut edge of fabric AA1. Unfold the pattern a bit to verify there's ample room around the pattern piece of fabric AA2 for the seam allowances all around. Okay, I went through this many times and tried various things, and that's where I got completely lost. Again, maybe it's my lack of experience. I went to YouTube. I tried to find if there was a YouTube video that would go along with this pattern. There was not. I went to her website to see if there was any additional instructions or video links. There was not. Nothing at all. In fact, I didn't find any tutorials about this particular pattern, although there were other tutorials about her other patterns, which are also, many of them, paper pieced as well. So I was lost. So I finally decided I was going to go back into YouTube. I was going to look at paper piecing techniques, and I was going to do it the way I found it on YouTube, and I did. Now what that did was it flipped this whole design around the other way. But that's okay because it's symmetrical, and so it didn't really matter. But that was the only way I could get around this. And then it says, step 5, mark the point along the cut edge of fabric AA2 where the pieces overlap. Slip fabric AA2 out from the bottom and bring it to the top. Do not flip it over, lining up the two cut edges and the mark point with the end piece of AA1. At first glance, I thought I understood what this was all about. No, I did not, and I tried. And here's what we have for diagrams. And these really, there needed to be additional photos here of what to do, because this did not really show me clearly what was being described. Stitch along the line dividing AA1 and AA2, starting and stopping at least a 1/4 inch beyond each end of the printed line. Press the seam allowance toward AA2, and it goes on. So I got very frustrated with this. I tried my best. I tried different ways. I ripped out things, the whole bit. And so, as I said, I just went ahead and did it the way that I had done it in the past. But then we get to piecing these smaller pieces together for the larger sections. Well, the problem I had with that was in this instruction. It says, for section B, first cut the pattern pieces along the lines that separate the subsections BA, BB, BC, and BD. Piece each subsection as above. To add the last piece, BD3, pull the paper from the part of the seam that overlaps the line dividing the assembled BD1 and 2 and piece BT3. Piece subsections together using a pin as above to align intersecting side seams. Okay, more diagrams, which do not clearly show me what she is describing. At least I don't think they do. And I'm not stupid. Okay, I tried to figure this out. I tried to visualize what she was doing. I looked at her diagrams, I studied them and the instructions, and I still didn't get it. So I had to do my own thing. And essentially, what I did work, but it was probably, well, I know it wasn't probably, it wasn't the way it was intended to be. So after all of that frustration, which did not make this an easy job. And from what I understand about paper piecing, when you get things with a lot of angles and stuff like that in it, that's supposed to make your life easier. This did not. Okay, so I got this all done. All on there. I used this black, sort of black-gray background for it. And I was looking at it before I quilted it. And to say the least, I was not impressed. It just looked... The pieces go together. I've matched up the points pretty well in it, the whole bit. I had a little problem up here, which you probably can't see from the distance. Oops, sorry, moving the camera. From the distance you are, but this is a little off in here. I had to do a little fudging along this, but I did get it all together. So actually, if I had done a better job of organizing my colors for this, I would like it better, even though I went through the hell that I went through with those instructions. So then I got thinking about the quilting. Well, before that, the borders. So I had some more of this sort of Canadian themed fabric with maple leaves that I put all around the outside, and that is fine, except those are stripes. Didn't think about it when I was piecing them together because I had to put two pieces together. I did them on the bias, and I didn't get the stripes matched up completely. Now, on the side pieces, they're okay. The top one's off a little bit if you look at it real close, and from the distance you are from the quilt right now, you probably can't see it, but you can definitely see it down here. See this one? I did not get those lined up. And at that point, I just wanted to get the damn thing done. Okay, I'll be honest about it. At this point, I had pretty much given up. I was determined to get it all finished so it would not be a UFO, but I'm not happy with the way that went together. So listen to me. Again, this had nothing to do with the instructions. This is me. The bad, it's my bad on here. I should not have used striped fabric, or I should have cut the fabric, been a little bit more fussy about my cutting of the fabric so that I could get the stripes to line up. Excuse me. So I thought, okay, let's do some quilting that might make the whole maple leaf design fade a little bit into the background. Usually when you're doing your quilting, from what I know, you want the quilting to enhance your focal point. In this case, I kind of want the quilting to hide the focal point a little bit because I wasn't happy with the color. So I picked this sort of curls and swirls pattern, and I did it all in the embroidery hoop on my embroidery machine. So it looks like a continuous design, but it is not. But the way it was positioned, the technique which is in episode 59, it does look continuous. And I am kind of happy with the quilting. Now, how long did it take me to quilt this in the hoop? About 8 hours. I did it over 2 days. I did it over this past weekend. So I did it over Saturday and Sunday. And I was pretty much sitting at my sewing machine from, about 8 o'clock in the morning until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the first day. And from about 8 o'clock to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon the second day. So overall about 8 hours. But I'm not concerned about the time it took to do that. Because as you know, if you've seen episode 59, I talk about the pros of quilting a quilt using your embroidery hoop. So I got it all done. I bound it this morning before I made this video, and yeah, it's okay. It's okay. And maybe to the average person out there, especially non-quilters, they probably think it's really spectacular. But to me, and probably to a lot of experienced quilters, we can see where the weaknesses lie. And that's why I'm doing this video, because I want to show that this happens to quilters. You start out with a great plan, but because of other problems, color choices, pattern instructions, miscutting, things like that, you can end up with something you're not happy with. And I think as quilters, we tend to be very critical of our own work as well. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. For me, I think it's a good thing because I learned from being critical. So what did I learn from doing this quilt? One, I learned that if you're going to do paper piecing, make sure the instructions are written very clearly, or that you understand the instructions clearly before you start. So read your pattern over several times. Two, be very careful about your colors in something like this design, for example. Choose carefully. Put lots of thought into it. And three, avoid stripes on a border unless you're prepared to do some very careful cutting and matching. So this is not a total loss. It is done. As I said, to the average person, it probably looks great. But I did learn from my mistakes, and I'll be able to apply that knowledge to future quilting projects. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Idiot Quilter, and we'll see you for the next one soon. Bye-bye for now.